So, welcome to the Vision to Success Digital Marketing Workshop. These are free regular workshops that are designed to help you take your vision and realize it into successful business. The overall structure for the next hour will be a short introduction of who we are and what Vision to Success is all about. Then we've got an in-depth educational workshop presentation on the second stages of developing your marketing strategy. We looked at this 4 weeks ago, and I'm pleased to say we've done more work on the program, on the app, which is free to use. We're going into a little bit more depth. And then there'll be a chance to ask questions. Please drop questions into chat. If you're on live stream on YouTube or LinkedIn, please put them into the chat there. And they come through the technology called Restream, which then Rachel will pop into the chat, which is in front of me. And we'll answer those as we go along. So don't hold things back, because I think it makes it more interesting when you can make the learning more relevant to your own challenges. And then there'll be an opportunity at the end to go through things as well. Then we'll say, and then if we've got time, we'll open the floor to any questions you might have in marketing in general, because we want you to take away as many things from this as possible so that you can work on them tomorrow. Okay, so let's get going. So I think we've got a few new faces in the room today. So my name is Peter Dickinson. I'm a business and marketing coach. I've been doing it for over 20 years. I've been working with technology for 40 years. And so I've seen a huge and massive amounts of change and so forth. And what I've seen is that the world has become a lot more complex. And we're trying to make it easier for people through these workshops and through the app to make things a lot easier for people to do their own marketing as much as possible, and then to use agencies or outside help when you run into a brick wall. So I'm the founder and managing director of KUB. So we're a coaching and digital marketing agency. And Charlie, my daughter, runs the business, and she's been with me now over 7 years. We've got a team of people working within our Manchester central offices. And because I've been around quite a long time, I've got 30,000 connections on LinkedIn and quite a few on Twitter and Instagram and so forth. And we're currently playing around with TikTok to see how we can sort of utilize that, because it's rapidly becoming a platform that you need to be taking notice of. So please run in speaker view during the presentation, and I'll put the spotlight on myself so that makes that easier for you. Unmute, use mute when not talking. Please raise your hand to contribute. These are after we've cleared away the slide deck. So during the presentation, please ask any questions through chat. We are live streaming, and these sessions are recorded. So if you don't want your picture to be seen, please mute. Please stop your video. So why do we do this? There's quite a lot of work involved in setting these presentations up and so forth. Well, I very much believe in a world where we're all successful in a win-win scenario. So it's here to help you guys compete in a digital world and to build on your knowledge. I mean, I can't believe how much knowledge I continue to learn, and we have continual development programs for the team so they can develop. And so it's about providing that, sharing that knowledge, helping you to solve digital marketing problems, and looking to build a community to support marketing. That's both of people who use marketing, people who are marketing professionals, and also suppliers of marketing services, because I believe in very much in it's a collaboration. So what is Vision to Success? Well, we've got the 3 Wednesday workshops, from 11 till 12. They will run bi-weekly or fortnightly till beginning of August. And then we have a break for 6 weeks, and then they go to monthly presentations. I want to continue this, and we'll have a lot more guest speakers in the autumn. And we've got a couple more guest speakers before we break. We've got a couple of online courses at learning.kub-uk.net, and we're building the app, which is what's called a minimum viable product at the moment. So it doesn't look like glossy, but it is a useful tool. And then we have a program for doing strategy for people, which is fast and efficient. Again, using the app, so we can do it for you as well, should you wish. I decided we were going to do a lot of online courses, but I decided actually putting it into a book would be a lot more efficient, because the things go out of date quite quickly, and so that's got 60,000 words, taken about 6 years to pull the structure together, and then all the information's up to date, but it's in digital format, so we can keep updating it. And that's available through Amazon, plus about 12 other stores globally. I do want to build a community. We'll talk about, we've got a WhatsApp group, but we also are live on this networking relationship management package, which is free to join. If you go to myhub.com, you'll be able to sign up and register. And then within the group, we have the Vision to Success group, which is where we share information and so forth, and that will grow over the next 12 months. If you go to our website, Vision to Success, and look for Vision to Success Community, you'll find more information there. And as I say, if you want to be part of our WhatsApp group, which again, we share messages and so forth on there. Not much, we don't bombard you. And it's a place where you can ask questions and things. So please email Rachel, and she'll sort that out for you. Okay, so this is the second stage of the workshops on marketing strategy implementation. We often get used, sort of when we start working as an agency with somebody, they'll have some ideas, but they won't really have worked out what their strategy is. And so what we're looking to do is, with the free app, is giving people the tools. Maybe they can't afford the consultancy, they can't afford for us to do it. So, so that they're better prepared when you go to see an agency, or when you're talking to your staff, or you're talking to your shareholders or stakeholders. We do a lot of working with high growth, and certainly more with fintech companies, where they're putting quite large amounts of money into marketing things. So it's important that the investors know where that money's going. So what I'm hoping for you to come away with is a practical approach to strategy development. Look at the marketing, identify the marketing resources you should be focusing on, and then we'll have a quick breeze through the second part of the app, which we looked at 4 weeks ago. So a few fundamental things. I've shown you this chart before. People look at it and go, well, it can't be that complicated. How hard can it be? Is probably the questions people ask. Well, to be honest, that's the stuff that all the stuff on that map is what bombs around my head when I'm speaking to a client. Which bits of this map do they need? They don't need all of it. Obviously, when you use the London Underground, you jump from A and go to B and so forth, and you pass through quite a few stations. You may change trains, but you don't use all of it. And it's the same with digital marketing. But the whole map is, of all the things you can do, is quite complex. And I thank Gartner. This thing's been around. It's clearly been updated over the years. And it just shows just how complex this thing can be. Obviously, you don't use all of it. So just simply breaking that down now. If we think of your products and services, that's the input into your marketing. What is it you're trying to supply to your customer base, we always start with keyword research. Now, you may not want to do SEO. You may just think, oh, well, social media will be fine. But it's really important to understand the language that your customers use. For example, we work with a market for a telecoms company who sell into medical, finance, insurance, contact centers. And we had to do a series of videos for them. It was the same video, but the language was quite different and the emphasis was quite different. You can't use the same words you use with a contact center as you would use for a law firm. They use different words, and who they market to is different as well. So it's super important, and there are free tools for you to use to identify what those are. We have covered these in various workshops. If you go to how to get to the top of Google on our previous workshops, if you go to the free workshops menu, then just hover over it and say watch our previous ones. If you scroll down, there's a whole hour's worth on how to get at the top of Google, which will explain why these keywords are so important. That then leads to the content. That could be social media content, it could be video content, it could be articles, it could be case studies, it could be just on what you put on your products and so forth. So that's providing that sort of, and we always include that in any sort of strategy work we do, and you should always think about these things because they drive your social media, they drive any search, how to get found in Google. You need to sort of that forms the content for your website. It may form part of the language you use with your LinkedIn when you're doing LinkedIn lead generation, into any videos you do, into any email in the marketing automation, and then all that comes out in the analysis. Now, everybody's business is different, and so we will then look at ways that you can then identify what's important to you. The other dimension we mustn't forget about is there's omni-channel or multiple channels of interaction. Again, in the website, there's a workshop on the what to do with the website, how to manage your website. I'm a kayak instructor, and on our club's website, I put live chat. You think, well, why would you put live chat onto a canoe club website? That's crazy. That gets at least a couple of inquiries a day from that. And we've already increased our membership by 50% just purely by being able to respond rapidly and quickly. Now, it's not real time. I don't think you need real time in any sort of chat. It is very useful if you can offer it. And certainly as a support side of things, if you've got a lot of support calls, then it's essential. But for most people, just having web chat where you respond within a couple of hours, that's great. People trust web chat. They don't trust a form. And you can link this then into your email campaign and so forth. Obviously, emails used. Phones very rare, depend on the industry, but phones are obviously important. Messaging apps, more people are getting WhatsApp for business and so forth, and you'll see more of that capability. But generally, you try to plug it into a piece of software, and it's usually the web chat type software that you plug all these other channels into, and then funnel it through. So the kayak one, the canoe club one, the Facebook is plugged into the web chat, so all the messages come into one place. And I'm actually using a free tool. So you don't think, oh my God, this is expensive. It's free for and it's not because the canoe club's a charity or anything. It's just because it's free. Obviously, there's a limitation on messages, and occasionally each month we run out, but I don't upgrade it. But on a commercial site, you'd probably have something that costs, I don't know, I think it's £6 a month. So it's not something that's going to break the bank. So then how does that look?
Peter,
yeah.
Peter, this is Tim here. On that previous slide where you've got all those different channels,
Yeah.
I assume that for most businesses, with small marketing teams, it is difficult to do all of them. Do you find that for different industries and types of business that the mix is different?
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, I mean, you know, you wouldn't have a shop, and you know, but certainly you've got, for most businesses, if you pick out the typical ones that you kind of need to have a handle on, obviously word of mouth, which for a lot of businesses is still the main route. If you've got an e-commerce site, you'll obviously have all the channels to do with e-commerce. You know, you need to be able to handle the messages through social media, but some of these tools that you use like for live chat, you can plug those into it, like I explained with the Facebook. So you can funnel all the messages into one place if you want, and there are tools on e-commerce for doing the same. Obviously, live chat sits on the website. Obviously, you can have contact forms, but generally they just seem to get spam. But it does depend on the website. We've got a drone company that gets a lot of inquiries via the contact form. Obviously, being able to answer the phone is important, and I think in terms of messaging apps, we're not quite there yet. People don't plug those in, but again, you'd put those through a central system anyway, so that everybody can see all the messages coming into one place and can be handled by one person. But you're right, it very much depends on your business. I mean, we don't have a particularly fancy phone system. Ours costs 10 quid a month, and it redirects to either myself or Charlie, because we don't get any phone calls. Everybody messages because we're an agency. But I know if you were a construction or, you know, trade, then the phone gets used a lot. So it's very much down to your industry. So this then brings out, and we'll be working more on these later on. You end up with an ecosystem, how everything all links together. And one of the things we did between 4 weeks ago and today is develop the concept of marketing recipes, because we realize actually that you know, we can create a marketing, you know, sort of one of these things quite quickly. It takes me about, I don't know, 15 to 20 minutes to put one together, because I'm using different elements from different things, and I've got 20 years of experience of doing marketing. Well, that's not the case for a lot of people. So we'll be introducing the concept of marketing recipes, where we can give you what we suggest, and then you can strike out the stuff you don't want to do, because there's no point doing stuff that you can't do, you don't have time for, and so forth. But it's trying to find out what the key elements are. So we covered the marketing funnel. That was number 3 workshop. So we're not going to go into a huge amount of depth on that, but it's a reminder that it doesn't matter what technology, whether it's in person, whether it's via Zoom, or whether it's via email, or whatever, via video, you've got to take people down the know, like, trust, buy. You know, when you get somebody to an e-commerce website, the trick is to get them through that journey so that they buy on the first visit. But quite often, you know, when you're researching things, you might go onto you might think, oh, I know what a profound thing is. You search on Google, you maybe end up on a website, you go, oh, well, okay, and you look at the price, look at the spec, you go, oh, that's not quite right, and then you'll start the process again. You know, buyers don't just go start at the top, work to the bottom, and so that means you've got to have things that raise awareness at the top of the funnel to build up the getting to know you. You then got to do things in the middle of the funnel to get them to like and trust you, and then they'll convert. Now that might be asking for a quote if you're a big services company, or it might be buying on the website. But it doesn't matter which way you're doing, you've got to take them down that journey. So what are the tools? So what's the visitor's behavior? You know, sort of, so 75% of your visitors, probably even a bit more, will be just checking you out. It's top of funnel stuff. So they might be looking at your social media, they might go, oh, that looks really interesting. Then they'll go onto your website and then they'll go back off again because they've got the information they need and they go away. And that's why you have to have educational content on your website. If you don't have enough information for the buyers to assess whether they can, whether they want to buy from you or not, you're probably going to lose business. Because there's a stat, it's not in this particular workshop, but it's quite a high stat, something like sort of 60 to 70% of people have kind of already made their decision before they even kind of really interact with you. And so you need to be seen as the thought leader in whatever your subject is. If you look at, say, for example, Screwfix, you can think of a Screwfix site as a knowledge base. And the better the filters on the left-hand side on an e-commerce site, the more chance you'll keep them on the site and they'll get to what they want. There's nothing more frustrating than not having the right filters down that left-hand side. But it's amazing how many big sites don't really pay attention to it. They've just done some generic stuff. And you think, oh, right, I can't be bothered. If they're not prepared to help me, then I'm not prepared to do business with them. So that's where in the middle of the funnel, if you're an e-commerce site, having the correct filters on the right categories is super important. But it might be that you have educational videos, videos being used more and more. And if video isn't part of your strategy, then maybe look at your competitors. And if they've started to introduce video, whether you like it or not, you're going to have to think of a video strategy or you're going to get left behind. And then at the bottom of the funnel, they should have everything they need to make that buying decision. If you're selling larger, more complex things, or you're selling consultancy, obviously you need to get them onto a Zoom call or face-to-face. So what are the resources then? Because you're saying, well, we've got to do all these things. What are the resources? So this is why the diagram that I showed you gets quite complex, because you've got social media. Then in acquisition stage, depending on what you're doing, you might have workshops like we've got. You might have an app, which we're developing. You might have white papers. So we've got the book. You can download earlier versions of the book directly from the website. The one on digital marketing is about 15,000 words. The book itself is 60,000 words. But that's still available. We are going to revamp the website where it probably will disappear. Then you've got to have engagement. You've got to have this people being able to talk to you and so forth. So this is where web chat, I say most people don't need to do live chat. It's only if you've got a bigger system and you've got a lot of people where you've got live chat. Email, obviously make sure that your email's responded to, phone calls and Zooms and meetings. Then hopefully, obviously they drop through into orders, inquiries, follow-ups and so forth. And this typically, what a journey might start to look like if we're starting to put the jigsaw together. The website is the thing that you own. It's your space. You can't, even on Amazon, you can get kicked off. Amazon will quite happily close down £1 million a year business if they feel that some piece of paper is not right. And we've had it done to us, and we've had it done, and clients have also had it. And then you may use search engine optimization, but if your industry is heavily competed, you won't. You may do more stuff on mobile. So we'll be doing a deeper dive into how we'd use these. The whole point of the process is, and this came from the 1920s, by the way, from the film industry, that you need to hear the message. Now, in those days, they only had a few tools, but now we've got a lot of tools. And I don't know whether any of you follow Neil Patel, but he's the most generous guy in sort of digital marketing, because he gives out loads and loads and loads and loads of useful, actionable things. And as an agency, we follow him, because generally, he's putting out accurate educational material all the time. And, I'm sure he's helped the world improve its digital marketing. And hopefully we're playing our part in that. So the power of 7. what the sort of rule says is that things need to be heard 7 times. I would actually say 7 to 11 times, because I have heard other people say, well, it needs to be 11 times before you hear something, but it's quite a few times. So that's why you have social media, that's why you have a website. Hopefully you can get found in Google. What we find is that if you've got a recognizable brand, your website will be found for that first. So if you're doing stuff on social media and you're the Acme widget company, and that's a distinctive name, when you get that name out there, people then type that into Google. They'll not type it maybe accurately, but they'll type it in. If you've got a unique name, you will come up. Obviously, if your name describes what you do, like Pipe Fitting Limited, then you're going to struggle for your own brand. But there's horses for courses, because obviously your name will be Pipe Fitting, your website URL will be Pipe Fitting. There's a good chance actually that you will you'll be top of it. You'll come up on Google, but it's very competed. So that used to be okay 10 years ago, 15 years ago, but I wouldn't guarantee that now. You might put some advertising up. You might have landing pages where you've driven people to it. Landing pages is a specific page designed for an email or a video to point to, which you then take them through the buyer's journey. So you take them down the know, like, trust. You're all familiar with ADA, hopefully. Used to be used in letters and things, but it's still highly applicable today. I've not got the book upstairs, but there's a latest book on writing copy, and he still refers to ADA. So it's attention, attract their attention, develop their interest, develop their desire, and a call to action. So that's effectively what a landing page does. And then you might be approaching on LinkedIn or Instagram, or maybe even on TikTok now, although that's probably a bit harder. Or you may have developed LinkedIn groups and Facebook groups. So in reality, this is what customer journey kind of looks like. Probably more squiggly than this, but we needed to make it look pretty. But they may have listened to you on a podcast. We're getting more and more people doing podcasts, because it's all about setting yourself as the thought leader in your industry. And it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's service or a product and so forth. You want people to come to you because they see you as people that can trust, and you want to be the Heinz of your industry, if you like. Selling on quality, and being seen as somebody who you can trust. So you can see all these different activities going on, and then hopefully they convert to being a customer, and then hopefully you can retain them so they can give you good testimonials and so forth. So we, as an example company, this one sells services. We used it last week, 4 weeks ago, sorry. Some of the assumptions, it's not easy to develop new products and services, so there might be an accountancy, law firm, something like that. They may be focused, they've got a lot of business through referrals in the past, but now they want to be more ambitious and they want to be in control of their marketing. And so that they've got a limited budget and they've limited knowledge. And in terms of strategy, they want to sell more accountancy type services or law firm type services. And so it's about focusing on, if we think of the Boston matrix of the things that generate cash, the stars are those that are growing in a growing market, and you're growing a share of that market. A question mark is where the market's growing, but your share of it isn't growing. And obviously that's negative on your cash flow, because you're investing money into marketing, but you're not getting that return. So it's those areas that we're going to be focusing on. We have covered this, the stars and the question marks, in the strategy, which is in workshop number 1 or 2, can't remember, which is on the previous recordings. So if you're selling services, it's all about, for me, it's all about being professional. You know, can you be a thought leader? How can you educate cost effectively your audience to demonstrate that you are that then builds up trust. And sometimes when you're educating people, they don't know they've got a problem until you start talking to them. And then they see they've got a problem, and then, well, how can I fix that? You know, everybody's in that box of you don't know what you don't know, especially with marketing, and so our job is to help you understand what you don't know, and then you're better informed to actually decide, well, what do I need to do? So what are the symptoms of somebody who needs to do something with the marketing? So we currently, I'm talking to all my LinkedIn, having one-to-ones with my LinkedIn network, and trying to identify, you know, where people are struggling. I mean, a lot of people are still getting work through referrals and word of mouth, which is great. But the problem with that is you can't control it. You can't use that as a strategy to grow the business. We've not come across a mechanism other than social proof and testimonials that will do that systematically. So you might want to grow the company, but you're not sure how, or maybe your marketing isn't working, and you don't know what approach to take, and you lack the time, marketing knowledge. One of the biggest issues I see is that it's creativity. Most of our team are creatives. I'm a technical strategy, finance sort of person, consultant, you know, that kind of stuff thing. Whereas a lot of the team are very much on creatives, and that's kind of, if you like, if as an agency, that's where kind of we can add value, and also on the top, what we find also is technical skills, and quite often I'm used as a project manager. So once a month we'll have a meeting, marketing meeting. I had 2 yesterday, quite long ones, a couple of hours over Zoom each, and that was purely to sort of work through all the things they needed to do. They did all the work, but I acted as their project manager. And then for growth companies, it's what budget to allocate. So back to sort of the marketing template again. So here we've got branding guidelines, very super important if you are spending money on social media, websites, etc. And it's surprising how many people don't have branding guidelines. And all they are, you know, what is your what font do you use? What colors do you use? What's your primary color? What's your secondary color? What's your highlight colors? What's the tone of voice? You know, are you being authoritative and corporate, or are you being fun, or and so forth? That needs to be gathered together, and we've got people who we work with who I can refer you to should you got stuck in that area. We do some branding ourselves, but if you want a complete overhaul, then we've got a couple of people, depending on the size of business, who can help you out there. But that's super important. We always ask for it when we start working with a client, because your branding has to be consistent. We have two brands. We have a Vision to Success, and we have KUB. And I refer to it in our team as, we've got the splodginess, which is the Vision to Success, and then we have the splashy paint, which is the KUB. So even with although the branding colours are the same and the fonts are the same, you can actually still differentiate between the two. You can say, oh, well, that's a Vision to Success service, or that's a KUB service, which is the agency. We talked about the keywords, talked about content plan. If you may or may not have an SEO strategy, I know lots of SEO people will try and sell you SEO, even though it's a complete waste of time for you. I have no problem telling people, well, no, actually SEO is complete waste of money. Your money is best spent on X, Y, and Z rather than that. So it's not it used to be the nirvana. 15 years ago, everybody was going to do content marketing, everybody was going to get found. But of course, as the noise and the volume goes up, and you've only got 10 slots, and if you think about when you talk to the machines, like Alexa and so forth, they can only give you one answer, and there are maybe 100, 200 companies supplying whatever is that answer is, or even more. You get millions of results on some searches, don't you? So, getting number one or even on page 10, position 10 on page 1 can be a challenge. There's then the sort of website maintenance, it's getting social proof. We're all more and more in our web page design always asking clients to get social proof. It's not a nice thing to ask for, but you do have to ask for it from your best clients, and your best clients will, to be honest, will happily to give you as well. So it's not usually an issue. We talked about web chat. I think that's now key to pretty much most businesses, except the very small. We use LinkedIn lead generation, very powerful tool. Use it for research like I'm doing at the moment, or you can use it for lead gen, which Charlie and Rachel do. We've got the online events, which we've seen here. We're using live. So I think we had about 20 plus on the live, and we've got 13 in the room at the moment. So we had about 24 book into the room, 50% drop off, which is normal. And so 13 people turned up. And then because we're recording it, and because we'll transcript it, and we'll put download the slides, that's another opportunity then for Google to go, oh, right, some useful information there, or like I've been doing, referring to previous workshops, so that if there's things you've missed, you can go back to it and you can fill the gap in your knowledge. So come to the app. So why do we create the app? Well, like I said at the beginning, we have to kind of do strategy on the fly, so we want to try and formalize that, but obviously people don't want to pay for consultants sometimes, so right, we'll go here's a tool, and literally it's called a minimum viable product, because we're building it in stages. As we get more feedback, as we work on things, it's the most cost-effective way to build an app. So it's out there, it can be used, it's free, and there will be a paid-for version in September, and that will include the financial budgeting elements, plus some things that marketing consultants would use. But there will always be a base version that's free, which is useful. So I'm happy to say that we've now got it on our own domain. It was on the developer's domain, it's now on ours. And you can log in with your email. You can use Microsoft, Google, or Facebook to authenticate. That should all now be working, and you can register. So that's app.visiontosuccess.co. So we looked at this in detail last time. So you put your on the home page, you put your sort of strategy, your vision, and so forth. And we've now got a detailed set of questions actually that help you fill those things in. So if anybody's interested, just drop me a line or Rachel a line, and we'll send you the questions. So typical questions a marketing strategy consultant would ask you. We looked at the buyer profile. So if you go back to the workshop that I ran for part 1, that takes you to the buyer profile, because you've got to understand who your customer is. If you don't understand who your customer is, you're wasting your time, you're wasting your money. We have an exercise we used to do before all technology, and we had all these phrases where I'd say, put your customer in a chair opposite, describe him or her to me. What is it they want? What motivates them to buy? What are their problems? What jobs are they trying to do? And that's the buyer profile on this tab will do that. But today we're going to look at, right, okay, well, how does all this stuff translate into a strategy? And this is where we ended up coming up with the idea of a marketing recipe, because it's easier to put up an what in the UK we call an Aunt Sally, something that people can criticize and comment on, go, well, actually, I don't want that. It's easier to do that than to build it up from the start. So that's why kind of what we've got. It's not live in the program yet, but I'd expect in the next 2 to 3 weeks, the marketing recipes to become live. And so you can just pick a recipe and it will populate this. So essentially, for all the things in your ecosystem, we'll be looking at some examples in a minute. You might have keyword management, you might have the website, you might have webinars and so forth. So you can pick these, and at the moment it doesn't grow a chart, but it does give you the whole thing as a report, which you can then give to either your team or your agency that you're working with, or a consultant and so forth. Or you can ask your consultant to help you fill it out. But the end result is that you'll end up with a document with everything listed that you're going to do. And because it's auto generated, you can then, if you make changes, it's fine, just change it, regenerate, and you've got your new report and so forth. We actually take those and put those into a Canva document, which forms a presentation which we give to the clients to make it look pretty, but the data is the same. So it's funny, I was starting to build the marketing recipes to go into the program, and I've added even more things. And because the developer was saying, well, you've got about 30 things here now. And I probably is some more. And these are the generally used ones. If you think of the Gartner map, that's got even more stuff in it. But that's for corporates, where they've got to really work at what they do to make sure, and they've got the volume. They'll have hundreds of thousands of visitors going through the website, as opposed to maybe 1,000 or maybe a couple of thousand, which a typical small business website will have. But I've been putting in all things that typically I would expect to have in my little head menu of all the things that people might be considering for using. And as Tim pointed out, you're not using all of them. You're very much picking out the things that will work for your business. I'm a huge believer in 90-day programs, 90-day sort of targets. When you set your target for the year, or you set your target for 3 years, and you work back to 12 months, right? Okay, what are we going to nail in the next 12 months? If you try to do everything, as the 12-month objectives, you'll find that everything gets done in October, November, December, for example. So by having 90-day objectives and breaking those bigger objectives down even further, you can make progress. So after March, you'll have done certain things which will form the base for sort of Q2. Then you do Q2s, and so by the time you get to the 12 months, you've done all the things you said you were going to do, and it does work. It's Vern Harnish in the Gazelles, based on the he's a great proponent of it, and that's from the Rockefeller Habits. Rockefeller did all right. So if you haven't got 90-day objectives in your business, then it doesn't matter what size of business you are, whether you're a one-man band or a £100 million business, they are a fantastic tool. And so we built that in here. And so the idea of the app is that you'll come back to us maybe every quarter, or maybe even every month, and go, right, okay, what other things do we need to do? What did we say we were going to do? Have we done it? Okay, what do we need to do going forwards? And that's part of the apps, part of the process. It's not only there to put the plan together, it's there to help you stay on track and make sure you do what you say you're going to do. So as alluded to earlier, you need a model that's consistent for your business. So for example, this is one for an e-commerce business. So again, branding guide, hashtags, keywords, etc. You'll then have social media. Then you have the e-commerce shop itself. You may have the MailChimp system. You may have it connected up for abandoned carts. That'll increase your sales by probably between a few percent, to about 5 or 6%. You've got to think about Google search. You may have a Facebook shop. You may be running Facebook ads, and then you might have what are called retargeting ads, and one of the things, and you may have Google Shopping, which is the Google's advertising platform. if you've got an e-commerce shop and you're not advertising, not using Google Shopping or Google Facebook ads and so forth, you will not have a business. You can't, the days of just relying on search engines are long gone. And it's all about how to cost effectively, keep your cost of acquisition down. Cost of acquisition is, you spend £10 and you get a sale of £50. So your acquisition cost is 20%. And ideally, that's where your acquisition cost needs to sit, because after that selling that product, you've got maybe 10 to 15 to 20% is your overhead, if your overheads, and then 50, you may be selling on 50% margin. So you can see how quickly your margins can get depleted. So you've got to really understand the advertising side of things. And there's a few more things that you would do. I've got one to do this afternoon, which will be more complex than this. But you get the idea. And these will be built into the programs. They're not live yet. I'd expect them to go live in the next, well, hopefully soon, but hopefully in the next 2 to 3 weeks. We work with trade companies, people providing heating, electrical, security, cleaning, etc. And their strategy will be different. Obviously, no e-commerce site. You definitely have a web chat. You might even have answers to common questions in the web chat, because people will ask questions, want answers to questions after 5 o'clock. Well, you don't need to work longer hours. You just need to make sure that you put all the questions in. And work with a metal enclosures business, and they spent a lot of time putting all the answers to commonly asked questions in, and it saved them a fortune, in staff time. So staff can then handle orders rather than answering questions which the answers are known for. So that's where you're going to see this more interactivity built into the websites. What can the website do that a human could do, but the website can do better because it can do it 24/7. And then, a big thing about digital, about anything technological, well, you can measure stuff. So measure it and look at the results. What do the results mean? Especially if you're using things like advertising and so forth. But you can see here, if you're selling business to business, LinkedIn can be a great tool. We do a lot of lead generation for, plumbing companies, heating companies, and so forth, where they're selling commercially. Obviously, doesn't work to domestic. If you're using domestic, then you're more into Facebook and so forth. And then this is software as a service. We do quite a lot for people who've built apps, and we then have to launch them. And so this is a recipe for that. And as we work with more companies, we will do more recipes. And so if you start using the app, you can go, well, it hasn't got my recipe. Once the apps are launched in, say, 2 to 3 weeks' time, if it hasn't got your recipe in it, please email me and I will do your recipe. And we'll build it into the system. I want as many recipes in there as possible so that people can go, okay, yeah, I can see how that works. And you may not do everything, or you may do things in a staged development. You may decide that reviews and social proof aren't that important at the start. So you may say, right, I'm going to put those off, but in your mind that that's something you need to do. You may buy in data, or you may go, well, actually, no, we'll just do it through social media and so forth. We might do it through YouTube, or might do it through Google or Bing or whatever. I personally like, especially if we're on a new product with a new company that's new to a market, rather than going gung-ho, I'm always keen on soft launches like we're doing ourselves. We've had quite a few conversations, people who've used it on quite a few clients, and to get their feedback and to get, as the developer calls it, real use cases through it. And you need to do that. For me, that's how you should do marketing. It's all about having that conversation with the audience. I'm pleased that the face-to-face networking's come back. not because I'm a great face-to-face networker. I now live in the depths of Shropshire, so it's, you know, a tumbleweed blows through our networking down here. But when I was up in the northwest, you know, there was lots of events, and especially in Manchester, you can go out, you can network every day. But it's a great way to test your message, to ask questions, to get that feedback, you know, because it's about getting that language. We're working with critical thinking language expert, helping them with the marketing, and everything about what he's doing is all about the language. And unless you've got those real life conversations going on, you're not going to know. You know, you can be the greatest wordsmith in the world, but if you've not got use the right words in the right context, you're not going to work. It's not going to work. So have a play, app.visiontosuccess.co. If you've got any queries, questions, and so forth, give us an email. So bringing it together, obviously register on the system. Watch. If you have not watched part one, please watch part one. If you do get into the system and you'd like the list of questions that we ask clients before we start work with them, then very happily send those to you. And hopefully this is also a method, you know, especially with marketing recipes, you can look at your business model. You know, what does your marketing funnel look like? Okay, don't seem to have any questions. Does any other questions come up in the restream, in the chat, Rachel?
No, not at the moment.
Okay, so rounding this up is from today's presentation, what actions are you going to take away? What is it that you're going to do differently tomorrow? And it doesn't have to be using the app. It can be, you know, looking at doing a flow chart. The app the creately.com is free for 60 sort of blocks of process, so that you can go away those. The presentation will be up later today, and the transcript probably up in the next day or so, so that you can go back through and just sort of look at the screens and look at, well, okay, I can pick those up and so forth, and just sort of pinch some ideas from what we've done. Okay, so
just a quick one, Peter. You said have a play. I'm on your website. What is that I can have a play with?
The app, if you go to app.visiontosuccess. If you put it into the chat.
Oh, cool. Thank you.
It's sent to everyone. Let's just make sure it's. If I pull it up from here. Here we go. So there you go. It's in chat. It's not actually live on the website per se. That's why we're doing it. This is a soft launch.
That'll be why I couldn't find it then.
Well, to be fair, it only got we had a problem just sort of some insight into developing an app. The Microsoft, Google, and Facebook logins didn't work on the developers one, and we realized it had to actually sit on our own domain, and so it only got added yesterday. So it really is hot off the press. Jack, thank you for that. Personal action, segmented my internal documents to reduce overwhelm, and signposting flow to get info access across a usable format. So that's great. Has anybody else got any actions they want to share with us? David, I think you're clearly cracking on with having a go at the app. Anybody else? Cool. Okay. So just bringing the meeting to a close. I'll say we're always happy to take questions and so forth. If you go away and think, oh, how do you do something? You know, please get in touch. I'm really so very many thanks for attending the webinar. I hope you found it useful. As I said, the recordings and transcript will be put on the website next day or so. and then a link sent out to everyone who's registered. So you get a link anyway. In 2 weeks' time, on June 22nd, I'm really pleased to announce that Michael Luff will be presenting how to double profit by improving your sales process. I've worked with Michael for many years, and I've listened to him present, and I know he'll do a great job on presenting ideas on how you can improve profitability by looking at your processes. I mean, typically if you've ever worked with a financial director, I ran a company 20 odd years ago, and where we had to cut out costs, and all he did was get a spreadsheet out and just remove people and things. And I'm going, well, you can't do that. You just sacked the person who's half the company runs with. Yes, may not seem a great job title, but that person's a key person. So we mapped out all the processes, and then we were able to work out where we were carrying additional cost and resources that weren't necessary. And I think this is as we head into quite challenging times economically speaking, it's about working smarter and it's all right. Jack's just done a shameless plug. That is absolutely fine, Jack. That's what marketing is all about, getting yourself out there and sharing your brand. And so to find out more, please go to the website, which is on the website. It's under the events, and I look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks. In 2 weeks' time, when we'll learn how to make our businesses more profitable. Thank you very much for attending, and see you in 2 weeks.